Good morning, this is Sage live from the 𝐊𝐿𝐼𝐼 studios and you're watching The Early Trades, a show where we'll share with you a glimpse of the Australian share market's opening trading scenario along with the global and domestic drivers triggering the market momentum. And in our first segment of the show today, we'll look at how the early morning trades panned out, taking cues from Wall Street's action overnight. Then in the last segment, we'll look at the prominent newsmakers grabbing the headlines during the early trading hours, as well as movements seen in cryptocurrency, crude oil, gold and metals indices. The Australian shares opened in the red on Thursday after Wall Street and crude oil declined as July monetary policy meeting minutes showed that the US Federal Reserve officials are eyeing tapering by the year's end. In addition, a fall in commodity prices may exert pressures on the domestic miners, while a steady rise in the country's COVID-19 cases could negatively impact market sentiment. ASX-listed firms such as Newcrest, Evolution and South32 would be releasing their earnings reports on Thursday. The ASX 200 was about 59 points or 0.79% lower this morning during the opening trade after ending down 0.1% on Wednesday. And on Wall Street, the Dow Jones dropped 1.1%. The S&P 500 fell 1.1% and the Nasdaq tumbled 0.9% lower. The minutes revealed that Fed officials expected that the central bank's monthly debt purchases could ease this year if the economy continued to improve on expected lines, while a section of officials also believed that the fast spread of the coronavirus Delta variant may temporarily delay the full reopening of the economy. And while ongoing spread of Delta variant has triggered concerns that the global economic rebound may get delayed, turmoil in Afghanistan and fresh crackdowns on the tech sector in China added worries. According to data released on Wednesday, US home building declined on a higher than expected rate in July. Moving on now to the last segment of the show, let us quickly look at the highlights of the prominent ASX stocks under the spotlight during the early trades. And the first company on our list today is Over the Wires. This telecommunications, cloud and IT solutions provider has clocked a 29% increase in the financial year 2021 revenue. However, the net profit has come down to 3.4 million Australian dollars from 5 million Australian dollars last year. A one-time 3.9 million Australian dollar amortisation charge was the major hit to the profit figure. Next up is mining production and exploration company Western Areas, which has confirmed that it was in the preliminary discussions with miner IGO in changing the control proposal regarding takeovers. It will further update regarding the new terms and conditions or even whether the transaction would take place or not. And let's move on to the next. Leasing and rental financial services company Humm Group's net profit for financial year 2021 has skyrocketed 121.1%, primarily driven by better performance of its commercial and leasing segments. The buy now, pay later segment volumes have also risen 31.3% to reach 1.03 billion Australian dollars, and active customers grew 19.7% to 2.7 million. Meanwhile, gold mining and exploration company Resolute Mining has flagged an impairment for financial year 2021 between 165 to 175 million US dollars. It is the result of an increase in the risk-free rate it's using to value its 𝐊𝐴MA mine, which is located in Western Africa, and lower production expectations. And lastly, the financial marketplace ASX's statutory net profit fell 3.6% in the financial year 2021, while operating revenue was 1.4% down. The final dividend of 1.112 Australian dollars per share is also 9.2% less over last year's. Looking at the bond yields, the US Treasury yield also fell and benchmark 10-year notes dipped, percenting following the release of the Fed minutes. In the currency space, however, the dollar rebounded marginally after the Fed's minutes erased earlier gains, and the dollar index rose 0.04%. Moving on now, crude oil prices declined for the fifth day in a row in the ongoing spread of Delta variant. Brent crude finished 1.2% lower, while the WTI futures settled down 1.7%. Energy stocks, such as Woodside Petroleum, was in the red during the early trading. However, Santos edged lower too on Thursday. Looking at the futures and commodity space, spot gold prices were down 0.02%. US gold futures had earlier settled down 0.2%. And the ASX listed gold stocks such as St Barbara was seen in the red during the early trade, whereas the Newcrest Mining was rallying during the opening trading on Thursday. Let's take a look now at the metals update. Cuts on steel production and rises in inventories resulted in benchmark iron ore futures falling over 4% in China to their lowest levels since 24th March 2021. The most actively traded iron ore futures on the Dalian Commodity Exchange for January delivery fell as much as 4.6%. And on Wednesday, the copper prices slumped to their lowest in nearly 2 months. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange fell for a third day, falling by 2.3%. And that's all for now in the early morning trades. Please stay tuned to 𝐊𝐴𝐚 TV as we have many more shows lined up for you for sharing live updates across the economy, markets and sectors. Sage signing off.